Hello, everybody. I finally got live to Facebook to work, so thought I should let you know.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. If you don't mind, let's get started. The time is 7:30. This is the regular city council meeting.
Pardon me one moment, Your Honor. I just want to advise you that Dave Soltis will be joining us in just a moment. I emailed him the link, so he will be with us in a moment, but sorry.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so we'll call this meeting to order. Regular city council meeting of April 27th, 2020. It's 7:30 p.m. Will the clerk please take the roll call?
Councilman Bliss,
I'm here.
Councilwoman Clark,
Here.
Councilman Corbett,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Grafstein,
I'm here.
Councilor Rohrbach,
Here.
Councilman Soltis, Mayor Hartwell.
I'm here, and the record can reflect if and when Mr. Soltis joins the meeting. Okay, additions or deletions to the agenda. I've been informed by staff that there's a proposed addition. I would go to C1. Is any council member prepared to make a motion?
Your Honor, so moved.
Okay, thank you. Is there support to add a C1 to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I support.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. It was moved and seconded to add item C1 to the agenda. That's under communications. Is there any discussion on adding C1 to the agenda? All right, hearing no discussion, we'll do a roll call vote. Cheryl, will you please take the vote on this addition?
Yes. Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grafstein,
Yes.
Councilor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis, Mayor Hartwell.
I vote yes, the motion carries. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we can continue to presentations. We have two tonight. The first is Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report, or would you like to read the proclamation?
I'll read the proclamation. So April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and this month the community was encouraged to help raise awareness with the Madison Heights Women's Club, who once again participated by placing pinwheels in front of City Hall and participating in the pinwheels for prevention. Whereas last year, 33,060 children were abused and neglected in Michigan, totaling 91 children each day. And whereas it is estimated that in 2019, 63 of Michigan's children died from child abuse and neglect. And whereas unemployment, poverty, parental drug and alcohol abuse, stress, social isolation, and violent communities are identified risk factors for child maltreatment. Whereas both statewide and nationally, child abuse is considered to be one of our nation's most serious public health problems, and scientific studies documenting the link between abuse and neglect of children to a wide range of medical, emotional, psychological, and behavioral disorders, such as depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, severe obesity, and juvenile delinquency. And whereas prevention strengthens families and is cost-effective, and research shows that spending for child abuse prevention programs saves dollars that would be spent for crisis-oriented programming, such as protective services, foster care, special education, and counseling. And whereas child abuse prevention is an acknowledged community responsibility, and on behalf of Michigan's children, this month and each month thereafter, we join the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Children's Trust Fund to commit to always stand up for children and always remember the power of one. This statewide initiative, under the leadership of the Children's Trust Fund, asserts the power of one person, one community, $1, one action during April to help protect children from abuse and neglect throughout Michigan. Now, therefore, the Madison Heights City Council does hereby proclaim April of 2020 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Madison Heights.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. The next presentation is item number 2, and it's the Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
first of all, the record should reflect that Councilman Soltis joined the meeting before the reading of the proclamation. And secondly, is council going to move to approve the proclamation?
I don't think we need any action.
Your Honor, we typically don't. They're consent items.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so welcome, Mr. Soltis. Thank you, Mr. Sherman, for the point of order. The next item is presentation number 2, the Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation. Mrs. Marsh, would you please give a report or read the proclamation?
Yes. So we're moving on to May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And this community is called upon to recommit our state to increasing the awareness and understanding of mental illness and the need for the appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illness to promote recovery. Therefore, council was requested to approve this proclamation and declare May of 2020 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Madison Heights.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Marsh. Continuing on the agenda, that brings us to meeting open to the public. This is the opportunity for anyone to address any subject with City Council. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to participate in meeting open to the public, please unmute yourself and speak up now. Meeting is open to the public. Okay, did we see anyone waving like they were struggling? I didn't. So no one's asked to be recognized. So we can continue on the agenda. That brings us to communications. We added one item to the agenda. It's item C1. It's from the city manager, Mrs. Marsh. Mrs. Marsh, can you please give your report on C1?
Yes, on March the 6th, I approved and council concurred with the emergency purchase of an Aeroclave RDS 3100 decontamination unit for our fire department. That unit has arrived. However, due to the new protocols, we are in need of one additional decontamination unit for Fire Station 2 building, the equipment, and transportation. Therefore, last week I approved this purchase so we can get in the waiting line for this machine. Delivery is anticipated to still be 8 to 10 weeks out due to demand. So as long as council has no comment, that purchase has been made. No action is needed. It's just an informational item for council.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's objection, we can continue on. Okay. Next on our agenda are reports. We have several for consideration. The first is agenda item D1. It's from the DPS director. It's the 2020 West Nile virus reimbursement from Oakland County. Mrs. Marsh, your report, please.
Yes. So once again, the city of Madison Heights is eligible for reimbursement from Oakland County for expenses related to the West Nile virus. The Department of Public Services will be sending crews out in May to drop larvicide briquettes in each residential catch basin throughout the entire city. These briquettes, which last 180 days, prevent mosquito larvae from maturing into adults, specifically reducing the summer mosquito population. Basins will be tested periodically to assure that the larvicide is doing its job. DPS is also responsible for treating areas of standing water in the parks and commercial and industrial areas, such as stormwater retention and detention ponds. Staff and I recommend that council approve the resolution to allow the city to receive reimbursement from Oakland County for $3,910.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Corbett?
so I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the administration and adopt the resolution which will allow the city to receive reimbursement from Oakland County in the amount of $3,910.84.
Thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Rohrbach?
I support.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the staff recommendation. Let's see. And what else? And approve the resolution. Is there a comment from City Council? All right, we'll vote on this by a roll call vote taken by the clerk. If you support the motion, your answer is yes or aye. If you oppose, it would be no. Cheryl, could you please take the vote?
Councilwoman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grasstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
I think he's muted.
that's me muted, yeah.
Excuse me. Yes.
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Mayor Hurtwell.
I vote yes, the motion carries. The next report is agenda item D2. It's the bylaws for the DDA. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
Yes, on April 15th, the Downtown Development Authority approved the bylaws to provide the framework for the roles and responsibilities to the board members. The bylaws also outline who may participate in the DDA board, the length of their term, and establishes committees that are consistent with the National Main Street Program. Staff and I recommend that City Council concur with the DDA to approve the bylaws for that authority. And I would add that it passed unanimously through the DDA board.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Your Honor,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bliss?
I move that we concur with the recommendation of the DDA board and accept the bylaws as presented.
Thank you, sir. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Rohrbach?
I support.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to concur with the recommendation of the DDA and approve the bylaws. Is there discussion from City Council? Okay, no discussion. Let's go to a vote. It'll be, again, roll call taken by the clerk. If you support approval of the bylaws, the answer is aye or yes. If you oppose, it's no. Please take the vote.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grasstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
Yes.
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Hurtwell.
I vote yes, the motion carries. The next item is agenda item D3. And D3 is the internet entertainment permit renewal for 168 KTV and Lounge at 32415 John R. Road. Mrs. March, do you have a report?
On March 13th of 2017, 168 KTV Lounge entered into an agreement for entertainment permit with the City of Madison Heights. The owner has requested that this agreement continue under the same terms and conditions. The police department has reviewed the agreement for entertainment permit and due to several calls and 2 violations for record keeping, recommends that this agreement be extended for a 1-year renewal term instead of 2. If council concurs, the appropriate action would be to approve the agreement for entertainment for 1 year with the next review to take place on or after April 27th of 2021.
What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Clark?
I would like to move to approve the agreement for the entertainment for 1 year with the next review to take place on or after April 27th, 2021.
Okay, thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Corbett?
support.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the entertainment permit renewal and have a review in April 2021. Is there discussion from City Council? All right, we'll do another roll call vote. If you support the renewal, the answer is aye or yes. If you oppose, the answer is no. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Grasstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
Yes.
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Hurtwell.
I vote yes, the motion carries. The next item for consideration is agenda D4. It's the entertainment permit renewal for AMC Entertainment Holdings LLC, doing business as the AMC Theater at 32289 John R. Road. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
The American Multi-Cinema Incorporation, doing business as AMC Theater, has requested a renewal of their entertainment permit for 2 years. The owner has indicated his desire to have the agreement continue under the same terms and conditions as originally agreed to in November of 2012. The police department and the city attorney's office have reviewed the agreement for entertainment permit and have no objections to this continuation in accordance with the terms. If City Council concurs, the appropriate action would be to continue the agreement for an additional 2 years, subject to the same terms and conditions, including but not limited to the next review, which shall take place on or about April 27th of 2022.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mrs. Rohrbach.
I move that we continue the agreement for an additional 2 years, subject to the same terms and conditions for the American Multi-Cinema Incorporated, including but not limited to the next review, which shall take place on or about April 27, 2022.
Thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor, I'll support.
Thank you, Mr. Bliss. It's been moved and seconded to approve the entertainment permit renewal for AMC and set the renewal April 2022. Is there discussion from council? All right, we'll do another roll call vote. If you support the renewal, it's aye or yes. If you oppose it, it's no. Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
Yes.
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grafstein,
yes,
Mayor Hurtwell.
I vote yes, and the motion carries. Next on the agenda is item E1. It's a public hearing to consider brownfield plan for Cypress Partners located at 321 to 371 DeQuinder Road, but to reschedule it to May 11th, 2020. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
Yes, on April 13th, City Council scheduled a public hearing for Cypress Partners' request for City Council to consider a brownfield redevelopment financing request for 30021 through 30071 DeQuinder. In order to have this public hearing, it was mandatory to publish a notice no later than 10 days before the public hearing. This 10-day notice was delayed due to a COVID-19, requiring City Council to reschedule the public hearing until May the 11th of 2020. Staff and I recommend that City Council schedule a public hearing at the regular City Council meeting on May the 11th, 2020, and consider this brownfield plan for 30021 through 30071 DeQuinder.
Okay, what's the wish of City Council to reschedule this public hearing?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett?
Sir, I move that the council reschedule the public hearing related to a brownfield plan for the property at 30021 through 30071 DeQuinder to May 11th, 2020.
Thank you. Is there support?
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Mayor,
Mrs. Grafstein?
Second,
Okay, thank you. It was moved and seconded to reschedule to the regular meeting of May 11th, 2020, the public hearing to consider the brownfield plan for Cypress Partners located at addresses 30021 to 30071 DeQuinder. Is there discussion from City Council? Okay, let's vote. If you support, your answer will be aye or yes. If you oppose, your answer is no. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Councilman Soltis,
Yes.
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark,
yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grafstein,
yes,
Councilor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Mayor Hurtwell.
I vote yes, the motion carries. Next on the agenda is item F1. It's a bid award for tree nursery and planting services. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
Yes, with the construction replacement tree program, increased participation in the memorial tree program, and a general increased support for planting more trees throughout our city, staff felt it was an appropriate time to issue a formal bid for trees and planting services. On March the 26th, a request for proposal was submitted through Mitten, reaching 230 vendors, of which 23 downloaded the bid documents. The bid was written to indicate the general nature of the city's growing tree program, specifically indicating the approximate quantity of trees which would be needed annually and requesting 3 years of pricing in order to ensure the stability of the program. Additional pricing was requested for delivery without planting to accommodate future projects where we would use volunteers. On April the 15th, 2 sealed proposals were received by the deadline, with the lowest qualified bidder being Marine City Nursery Company. The pricing provided is comparable in several cases better than the prices that we were previously paying. Having performed due diligence in determining that the company is able to meet the needs of the city's tree program and provides favorable pricing to the city, staff and I recommend that council award a 3-year contract with the option to extend the 3-year pricing upon mutual agreement of the parties for tree nursery and planting services to the lowest qualified bidder, Marine City Nursery Company of China Township, Michigan, for the unit prices specified.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Your Honor,
Mr. Bliss?
I move that we award a 3-year contract with the option to extend the pricing upon mutual agreement of the parties for tree and nursery planting services to the lowest qualified bidder, Marine City Nursery Company, for the unit prices specified.
Thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor.
Mrs. Grafstein?
Support.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to award a 3-year contract with an option to extend the pricing for tree nursery and planting services to Marine City Nursery Company of China Township, Michigan, for the unit prices specified. Is there discussion from City Council?
Your Honor,
Yes, Mr. Bliss?
just a quick thank you to our staff locking in this price, doing the bid and having this 3-year price lock-in for what's an important priority for many of us on council is a really big win. And I commend every member of staff who worked on this. It was great work.
Thank you. Are there other comments from council? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. If you support, the answer is aye or yes, and if you oppose, the answer is no. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grafstein,
Yes.
Councilor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
Yes.
Mayor Hurtaugh.
I vote yes, the motion carries. Next is agenda item G1. It's ordinance 2152. It's the second reading of the proposed ordinance amendment to allow additional domestic hens. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
At the request of 2 council members, legal staff drafted an amendment to the current domestic hen ordinance to increase the total number of allowed domestic hens kept at a single family residence from 3 to 6. Currently, Chapter 5, Article 1, Section 5-42 of the Code of Ordinances provides that a single family residence shall be allowed to keep up to 3 domestic hens. The proposed ordinance amends changes would permit up to 6 domestic hens at a single family residence. In addition, the proposed ordinance amendment does not change the current fee structure and requires only 1 license and fee per single family residence for all domestic hens allowed under the section. It also does not allow for egg sales in the city. And there was a separate report that went to council to talk about a couple other concerns. So if council wishes to approve this ordinance, the motion would be to approve ordinance 2152 to amend the number of allowed domestic hens from 3 to 6 on second reading.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Clark?
I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2152 to amend the number of allowed domestic hens from 3 to 6 on second reading.
Thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor.
Grafstein?
Support.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to adopt this ordinance on second reading. Is there any discussion from City Council?
Your Honor,
Your Honor.
Mr. Soltis spoke first.
just a real quick question for City Manager Marsh. Is there a cost associated with this for the city?
No, not unless they're, because currently the chickens have little tags on their legs, so we decided that that would not be an increased cost. However, we did recently run into the situation where we ended up taking into custody chickens that had not been licensed at a home, and we don't have anywhere to house those. So we were thankfully able to find a foster chicken keeper. And but if we were to have to keep those at the animal shelter, we have no facility to do that, and we can't put them in with the dogs. So we would have to build a chicken coop on the back if that becomes an issue.
We'd have to build a chicken coop, is that what you said?
Well, if we end up having to keep chickens at the animal shelter, we have nowhere to currently keep them.
So if we had to confiscate or whatever you call it, what would we do in the meantime? When we're, or do we plan on building it?
We just had this situation about a week ago, which is the first time that I know that this has happened. We found foster care for the chickens.
Okay, so that foster care.
Until we found them in foster care, they were in a little cage together. Not ideal situation, but.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bliss, I heard that you spoke, you also spoke up. You have comments?
Yes, Your Honor. I actually really appreciated the staff report that was mentioned in the overview of this ordinance. I had asked a few questions on what other communities in the area are doing, whether or not the current license holders of 3 would like to go to 6, and then some understanding of what best practices are for the amount of space for them to have. I was hoping that staff could go through some of the highlights for the report for those watching, just to get the same understanding that we got on council.
I have to pull up the report. It'll just take a minute. So staff did look into the square footage that would be required, how much space is required for chickens, since we have relatively small lots, not farm size lots in Madison Heights, what other cities were doing, and the clerk's office also called. Currently, we have 3 homeowners in Madison Heights, or residents in Madison Heights, that have chickens. So they called those 3 individuals to see if they were interested. All 3 individuals were interested in having a greater number of chickens. One concern that came up that was not addressed in the report, but I had been asked several times, was the quantity of eggs that the chickens would produce, and would a person be allowed to sell those? So they would not be allowed to sell it, as we do not have commercial farms in Madison Heights. So the square footage required for chickens, an average lot size in Madison Heights is 5,170 square feet. That just the backyard, the average is about 1,250 square feet. 6 domestic hens would require an average of 12 square feet each. That would be 10 square feet outside and about 2 square feet in a chicken coop inside, which means that 6 domestic hens would need a total of 72 square feet. So our lots are big enough to handle 6 domestic chickens. We also included the current language about adequate shelter. So if you had domestic hens, you would need to build a chicken coop or an area, a fenced in enclosure for the animals to live. I talked briefly about the animal control. We did get a quote on building that out. It would be about $1,300. That would be in addition to feed and straw that we would need at the time that we actually take them into custody. And then, as I already indicated, the clerk's office called the 3 current hen license holders, and all 3 expressed an interest in acquiring a total of 6 hens. That's it.
Other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Clark?
Melissa, can you remind me for how many years we have been allowed to have domestic hens in the city of Madison Heights?
I want to say since 2010, but Rosalind Grasstein might know better than me, but I think 2010.
It's been 10 years, yes. It was 10 years.
In 10 years' time, we've only had one incident where you've had to confiscate chickens and rehome them.
I would have to ask Corey Haynes to be sure, but to my knowledge, yes, only one. And that person wasn't a licensed chicken owner. They actually had them without a license and were doing other things on their property.
Okay, great. So no bearing on the actual amendment because they were breaking the law anyway.
They were breaking the law, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just to clarify.
Other discussion?
Your Honor, I have a question about the $1,300 coop we would need. That just sounds really high. In the last 10 years, do you know if we've ever had to confiscate chickens prior to this? And if we did, what did we do with them? I thought there was some kind of a foster care. And I guess along those lines, since these chickens that were confiscated last week weren't even licensed, whether or not we were to license at all or to license more, if they're not licensed in the first place, we'd have to find a home for them, for foster care for them. So I'm just curious, that 1,300 just sounds very high.
We have to find a home for animals regardless of if they're licensed or not, but I'll turn it over to Corey Haynes. I think he's on here. He's the one that got the quote for that to build out. So if he is, yes, he is.
Yeah, the quote was partially for an actual coop that would house up to the maximum of 12 chickens. And just to correct the statement earlier, yes, we have been on multiple runs with chickens. And yes, we have had to confiscate multiple chickens. And we've been very fortunate thus far that we have been able to find farms, not rescues, but farms that have been willing to take these chickens. Just 2 weeks ago, we had an issue with too many chickens and too many ducks. So it is getting to be a little bit more work for the animal control officer, but unfortunately, farms will only take so many chickens and we only have so many that we can reach out to. And we don't want to be caught in a situation where we have 8 to 10 chickens and we don't have any place to put them. Ideally, not only would we need the chicken coop at the shelter, but ideally we would need an outside area for them because they can't be kept in a coop 24/7. It's something that we haven't had to consider over the last 10 years because, as the city manager mentioned, only 3 people have licensed chickens. The problem is we have a lot of chickens in this city that are not licensed, and that continues to be a problem. And just to add to that, the reason that we kept this at 3 previously was because we have other ordinances in the city that we meshed it up with. You can only have 3 cats or 3 total cats and dogs. And I know that the square footage would allow you to have more cats, but there's reasons we haven't added more than that. So that's it.
Thank you.
Your Honor?
Other discussion?
Yeah, Your Honor.
Yes, please.
For what the police chief was talking about, can the council get a report on all that activity?
Yes, we can get your report.
Thank you.
Any other comments from city council?
Well, Your Honor, that I was going along fine with all of this until the last 2 minutes. I think burying the lead here, though, I think if I understood the chief, and if you're there, chief, maybe you might give me a minute. If I understand what you're telling me, the issue is not the law-abiding chicken owners. It's the ones who are keeping it and not bothering to get licensed. Have you, I guess I'm asking the question, have you actually had a problem with a licensed keeper?
No, we have not had any issues that I'm aware of with a licensed keeper. There's only 3 in the city of 30,000, so pretty good.
But yeah, but I mean, let's not, I mean, if presumably if somebody is going to go to the trouble to pull a license, I mean, based on what you're telling me, then I mean, what am I missing here? It's no different than about anything else in the world, even for example, with well, I don't want to confuse issues, but anything else where you've got the people who are doing it legally and the people who are not doing it legally. I mean, because let's not bury the lead on that one. The problem with that one house last week wasn't that they were keeping too many chickens. It was because it was a drug house, right? Are you there, chief? Am I there?
I thought he was there. They were, the police were called out for something other than chickens.
Yes,
Yeah,
I recall there, it was a drug house, but needless to say, and I guess I'm missing something in your explanation, because we still had to deal with the chickens, whether it was a drug house or whether it was a mechanic shop. We still had that to deal with.
Okay, but the proposal on the table this evening for the city council is to allow those who are legally complying to keep 6, not 3. I don't see where that increases your problem. Yes? No? I mean, I want to give you a chance to talk on this.
If you're telling me that only 3 people in the city are going to have 6 chickens,
No.
then I don't know. I don't think so. We haven't had issues with those 3.
That's not what I'm saying. I guess it's like anything else in the world. I mean, the people who are, I mean, how are we if we say that somebody who's legally keeping chickens and is responsible is going from 3 to 6, I don't know that I'm compounding your problem from an enforcement standpoint. Unless you're saying that somebody's going to read that and go, oh, good, I get to have 6 chickens and kind of miss the registration part.
That seems to be what's been happening thus far.
Your Honor.
Yes, Mrs. Grafstein, yeah.
Can I make the suggestion that should this pass tonight, we make sure that we notify our residents and be very clear that this ordinance of 6, again, assuming this passes, does require registration. I seem to remember 10 years ago when this first came up, this was a concern back then as well. And that it was the same type of thing that Mr. Corbett just said. Those who are going to get the license are following the rules. And if we say no, those who aren't getting a license are still going to get their hens without the license. They're still not following the rules. So just to make sure that should we pass this tonight, we make a point of publicizing, let the 3 current license holders know, but also let anyone, maybe just anyone who in the past has had one or anyone who has contacted the city with questions, let them know that a license registration is required.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mrs. Clark.
In the interest of covering the costs to build a chicken coop, would one be able to create a fundraiser to help the city pay for that? One being me, I'm considering doing that fundraiser so the city doesn't have to eat that cost. I just know we have a lot of like enthusiastic people who would probably work to pitch in for that. Is that something that we can do? Can the city accept fundraising donations?
We always accept fundraising donations. But yes, that is something that could be done. The animal shelter actually has quite a few fundraisers themselves, and they have their own escrow account. So it would be actually donations to the animal shelter.
Your Honor,
Yes, please.
I just want to let you know that in every newsletter that goes out from the city, the domestic hen licensing information is in it in the clerk's section. So we do try to get that information out, but we also can contact the existing license holders as well.
Your Honor.
Yes, please.
So it sounds to me the only issue here is that we've got a compliance issue. Mrs. Marsh or Mr. Sherman, whoever, right now, if, and I realized, for example, in the case of last week, you weren't writing tickets for chickens. That wasn't what got you there. But if you came to my home and I had chickens that were not registered, I don't recall, is there a civil penalty? Is there a fine for that? Where are we at on that?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please.
I have my resident expert legal chicken person on the line, and Nick Rachowski. And I'm sure he can tell us what the penalty is under the current ordinance.
Boy, you really get the short end of the stick, Nick, but please continue.
Actually, under the ordinance, it's not a civil penalty. It falls under the general criminal penalty section of the ordinance, so it's up to 90 days and or a $500 fine. Not that that would be what would happen. Obviously, we're looking for compliance, but it is a criminal penalty. So the police department or animal control could write a misdemeanor ticket for failing to license their chickens. Just as we do with cats and dogs as well. It's the same, all falls under the same category and is treated the same for penalty provisions.
Mr. Mayor?
Let me just finish one point, if I might. Chief, so have you guys ever, to your knowledge, have you ever written any tickets for, this is to Chief Haynes. Have your officers ever written any tickets for violations of that hen ordinance or chicken ordinance or whatever?
Yes, we have.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there any other comment from City Council?
I just have one more, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, please.
If a person is caught with unregistered chickens, are they given the opportunity to register those chickens before they have to forfeit them, or does it go right like, sorry, you lose your chickens?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
It's largely up to officer discretion. They would normally write them a ticket, and then when they come to court and see me, we would work to get compliance, and if we couldn't get compliance, then we'd elevate it to the next step of other penalties or resolution. But generally speaking, when it's happened, they've come in and complied. So again, the goal is compliance. Depending on the responding officer, they may just warn them, they may write them a ticket. It depends. If it's animal control, they may give them a chance to register before writing the ticket, depending on the response and attitude of the offending party.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Sherman.
Just a few more facts relating to the case that happened. It happened a few weeks ago, I believe, that the police were responding to a domestic violence complaint. And when they arrived at the residence, they discovered that a meth lab existed in the garage. And then there were, I think the chief mentioned there were 5 chickens present, and this was one of the residents that was not licensed. So you were looking at serious felony multiple serious felony charges, and I don't think anything was written relating to the chickens in that circumstance.
Thank you. Is there any other comment from City Council? All right, let's vote on this ordinance amendment. We'll do a roll call vote taken by the clerk. If you support the ordinance amendment, your answer is aye or yes. If you oppose the amendment, your answer is no. Clerk, take the vote.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grafstein,
Yes.
Councilor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
No.
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Mayor Hurtwell.
I vote yes, the motion carries. Next on the agenda is approval of our minutes from the regular meeting of 4/13. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that the council approve the minutes of the 4/13 meeting as printed.
Thank you, sir. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Rohrbach?
I support.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes as printed from 4/13/20. Is there any discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. All in favor will say aye or yes. If you oppose, you'll say no. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Potem Grasstein,
Yes.
Councilor Rohrbach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
Yes.
Councilman Bliss,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Hartwell.
I vote yes, the motion carries. There's no other business before City Council tonight. So before we adjourn, I'd invite any closing comments from council and staff. And we'll go in the same order as we do when we're physically gathered in chambers. So Mr. Corbett, would you like to begin?
Two items this evening, Your Honor. One relates to the one item that is going forward. It's the open house regarding the master plan for the community. I had a chance earlier this evening to go online and poke around with that. Normally what would have happened in a week or two, there was going to be a public hearing or an open house for the city to the residents to comment and to provide ideas and input to the Planning Commission and by extension, the City Council. It was very interesting, actually, the website. I thought it was very well done. It takes you in a normal process, logical sequence through development, talks a little bit about who we are demographically, gender, and so on, moves on to mobility and other issues that we're confronted with, and specifically identifies at least two that I had a chance to read, sites in the community that are subject for redevelopment. I think that's crucial, that as many people who have a chance get online and provide their input, especially now, because I think all of us concerned with the development, whether we're city council, whether we're professional planners, or just concerned members of the community, are going to want to take a good hard look at where we're at over the next few months. I'm very, very concerned. I've expressed this to staff and other members of council, where we're going to be a few months from now, both in terms of our overall economic development, the DDA, and the rest of the community. So I'm hopeful that if the community pulls together, puts some ideas together, that we can get through this. There are going to unfortunately be some losses. This is just too big of a hit for us to ignore. But I think if we approach it intelligently and with the same resolve that we did the crisis 10, 12 years ago, we'll be fine. It's a great community. The things that made us an economically attractive location within the Detroit area, access the freeways, the demographic pool, the housing, the affordable housing stock, all of that continues to work in our favor moving forward. This is something I've worked on and off over 35 years, 40 years here in the community. And so I'm optimistic, but I would certainly encourage everyone to take a look. It's very well done, very professionally prepared, and is very inviting in terms of the input it looks for people. And the only other item tonight, I just wanted to express my family's sorrow and sympathies for Councilor Rohrbach and her family over their loss earlier, I guess it was today or yesterday. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bliss?
Yes, Your Honor. As Councilman Corbett said, please participate in the master plan survey. That's going to be really beneficial for us going forward. I also want to echo some of the same sentiments. Actually, in the last two council meetings, Councilman Corbett and I have both expressed our desire to rein in the budget a little bit ahead of time. And staff responded in a really big way. I have an incredible amount of appreciation for the work and effort our city manager and our entire team at City Hall put in to this budget. They took it and took it down to what I think is a really good place, given the looming recession that we're in. It is still a little bit higher than last year, but it's only 25% of the millage that was approved by voters. And that's due to some of the positions being filled prior to COVID-19 that we don't want to go back on, some police and fire staffing. And so we're not going to do this typical budget meeting. So for the public that's watching, we're not going to do the typical budget meeting that we would normally do. It's different times. We're going to add that to a normal council agenda like this one. And we'll still go through it. We're still going to be able to talk and debate about it. There's still going to be a chance for public comment. So I'd encourage anybody, first and foremost, feel free to message, call, or email any one of us if you have opinions on the budget, but also feel free to join that meeting. I believe it'll be the second meeting in May, but please correct me down the line if that's incorrect. It's either the first or the second meeting. But definitely show up for that, speak in public comment. We don't get a lot of virtual participation as of yet, but maybe that'll be the meeting that we do. Speaking of which, it's really exciting stuff that we had about 50 people watching this meeting tonight, either here on Zoom or on Facebook Live. Love to add that Facebook Live when we actually get back into council chambers. I think it's a great way for our residents to be able to participate, hear what's happening, whether or not you're looking at our, bedrooms, basements, and corners. When we get back in, I'd love to be able to create that same type of experience so our residents can log in on Facebook and watch and comment and participate. That was really cool to see the amount of people there. And honestly, we were talking about a chicken ordinance for the first time in 10 years, which is exciting TV for everybody in quarantine. Honestly, I feel like I'm part of the club now. The only two members of council who voted on the last ordinance were Councilman Corbett and our Mayor Brian Hartwell. We're the only two members here that were in that. So I feel like we're all in this club now where we've actively debated hens in our community. And I'm excited that we were able to get that passed tonight. Also, I am saddened for all of the theater kids this week. This was going to be the week that most of those shows were going to open, most of the spring musicals at all of the high schools in our city. This was going to be that week, and they don't get to open. And so shout out from me to each of you, one former theater kid to all of you. And I'd love to be able to see something go up on the city's social media channel, thanking, congratulating, and maybe encouraging them to submit videos that we can share of them singing the songs that they would have otherwise sung. I think that'd be a really cool way for the community to engage. Finally, I would like to echo the sentiments of Councilman Corbett. My family, I would also like to offer our condolences, our prayers, and our support to Councilor Rohrbach and her family for their loss. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Rohrbach, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I first thank you very much to Councilman Bliss and Councilman Corbett. We did lose my father-in-law this week. He had terminal cancer, and so it was not a COVID-19 loss, but difficult nonetheless, because when we're separated from our loved ones and we can't be together, it's a pretty difficult time. So thank you very much for that. I do want to say thank you to the staff of the library, in particular right now with children home and all of us home so much more than usual. Our book supplies and things like that have been running low, and making sure that we can all be entertained and informed is so important. And libraries play such a huge important part of keeping our residents supplied with information. I know that the library has recently added a ton of titles to the Overdrive and Libby ebooks so that anybody with a library card can get that. They also have a ton of like audiobooks, which has been great for me. Magazines and online tutoring is also available through the library. And I recently saw today they put up a to call or text a librarian. So you can reach out to librarians at the 248-537-2373. And my mother is a retired librarian from another city, but she always says that if you want, librarians are the like original Google. So if you are, if you need guidance or anything like that for information that you're looking for, call a librarian, and we can call the Madison Heights librarian. So I want to say thank you to them and thank you to all of you, and stay safe. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Rohrbach. City Attorney, Mr. Sherman, do you have any closing comments?
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Mayor, I echo the same comments previously made on condolences to Councilor Rohrbach and her family on the passing of her father-in-law. We had a little excitement this weekend. We had a gender reveal on Zoom, and the participants were supposed to wear either pink or blue. My son and daughter-in-law live in California, so I'm wearing my pink shirt, which was the correct guess on Saturday night, and the heavy money was on girl. And I guess I guess we predicted it right, but it's nice to have something positive to and exciting to do while we're all under these constraints. So I just want to wish you and yours to stay well. And hopefully soon we'll be getting back together again at some point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager, Mrs. Marsh, do you have any closing comments? Well, Melissa, unmute yourself, please.
It's just talking away. It didn't really matter. I'll start by echoing the comments of the other council members to Emily about the loss of her father-in-law. It's always difficult to lose a loved one, but especially when you can't gather together during these times. So I'm very sorry to hear that. I'll follow up on some comments by Mark Bliss. The budget meeting is going to be on May the 11th. That's the next council meeting. The budget is available online if anybody wants to go look at it. We have reduced the millage to only cover the hiring of 3 firefighters and 1 dispatcher, which have already taken place. And those positions have been critical throughout this COVID-19. So very thankful that we did that. We also, when we promoted the millage, we were going to hire 2 police officers as well. Those positions are in the budget, but only at a half of a year. So anyone's welcome to participate in that meeting as well. That will also be live on Facebook because we're going to be having that meeting on Zoom. It will be May the 11th, starting at 7:30. The master plan that was just mentioned, the virtual town hall, is open through May the 8th. So don't delay in taking that. You can actually take it. The link is on our Facebook page and should also be on our website. But the easiest place to find it if you have access to Facebook is on the City of Madison Heights Facebook page. I'll concur with Bob Corbett. The website is very well done. I thought it was very interesting. Tons of charts and graphs. If nothing else, it was just interesting to read through those. I'd also like to pass on some condolences to the family of Jack Williams, a former building official at the City of Madison Heights. He passed away this morning. He served the city for numerous years and was here when I first got here before he retired and went to work at Safe Build. 2 other things. We were presented with an exciting opportunity last week through economic development to partner with the Oakland County Economic Development, the Downtown Development Authority, the city, and the chamber to offer small business grants to small businesses that are facing, people facing in the city. So that would be like restaurants, hair salons, nail salons, those types of things. The business grant will be through crowdfunding, through patronicity, and it'll be matching up to $10,000. So for every dollar we can raise up to $10,000, we will get that matched. So that program has not launched yet. We're still in the process of coming up with the application and meeting the guidelines of Oakland County, but it will be launched before the 15th. So keep an eye out for that. I'll be talking about that again on May the 11th, and you can see it on our website and Facebook page as well. And last but not least, we had a tree program that was going to be going in on Mulan. We had been planning this for May the 16th. We've been recruiting volunteers and had this big party plan to plant trees. That now has been postponed to June the 6th for obvious reasons. So if you're interested, we are going to be planting 32 trees with the organization Relief, which will help tree populate that whole street. So that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. Our clerk, Cheryl Rotman, any closing comments?
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Grafstein, any closing comments?
Yes, I want to start by letting Councilor Rohrbach know that my family and I are very sorry for your loss. I can't imagine what you're going through. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and that your husband and your children are going through that now. So our thoughts are with you and your family. This is going, we're leaving April, we're going into May. It's Mental Awareness Month, and I want to make everyone aware of a program that's available online. It's called Headspace, HEADSPACE, headspace.com/MI for Michigan. And it's something that the Michigan government has out right now just to support people in this time. It's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Normally people are under some kind of stress, and there's a lot of anxious people. There's a lot of issues going on, but now more than ever, for obvious reasons, people at home. So, people unsure with their health, they're unsure with their finances, they're unsure with their food stability, just so many things going on. There's just so much more. So wanted to make everyone aware that that is out there. It's just to help people during these challenging times, just so you can take care of yourself, take care of others, just to keep your mental health in check. So just want to put that out there so that people are aware of that. Mrs. Marsh mentioned the tree planting. The date has changed several times, and hopefully we're going to keep with the June 6th date. The idea initially, as she'd mentioned, was it was going to be a big get together, lots of people, and we've scaled it down a lot. But hopefully we will get this done. The most important thing is getting the trees in, and look forward to doing these programs again, hopefully during times where we can have more people doing it. So looking forward to getting that. Master plan, that's a really big thing that we've been talking about for a while, that we've been looking at doing. So I encourage everyone as well to go online, take a look, and put in what your views are, what you want to see. When we initially were talking about this over the last few months ago, it was a different time. Now we're looking, all levels of government are looking at what does it mean when we're reopening our businesses? What does it mean when we're reopening our economies? And what is this going to mean for us? And so it's just something to keep in mind with the master plan. We don't know what's going to happen, and so we want to make sure that whatever it is we're setting up is going to be something that will accommodate whatever our new normal is going to look like. So just keep that in mind as we're going forward with this. And I encourage everyone to tune in and to provide feedback for our new budget, for our budget meeting in a couple of weeks. That's it. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark.
I don't have much of anything today. I'm just very excited at how technology is allowing so many of our neighbors to participate in these conversations. I'm very excited about the master plan coming up and the ability for our neighbors to participate. I echo the same sentiments as the rest of council. Emily, I'm so sorry. My heart breaks for you. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Soltis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I as well want to offer my condolences for Councilor Rohrbeck and your family. It's a very difficult time, and I understand. I currently work in hospice right now, so I understand it's tragic, and I really feel for you. I'm sorry. Second, I volunteered. Finally got called, and I'm going to start volunteering with the county health department as contact tracing. So that's for people not familiar with that. Is I will be talking to, giving calls to surprise calls to people that were in contact with somebody that was actually verified as COVID positive. So, but that's a good thing in terms of trying in public health, because then you can whittle down exactly who, and then try to minimize the casualties. Second, I was thinking that as a nation, a county, a state, that I think we forgot our seniors in this crisis. And what I mean by that is mostly the nursing home patients. That was supposed to be ground zero, and is ground zero for this virus, tragically taking a lot of lives of seniors, elderly in the nursing homes. And on the website, the state website, it's saying that Oakland County has 516, unfortunately, deaths with nursing home patients. I think that number is low. I think it's higher than that. We have one nursing home in our city, and from the report we got on the website, it says 0. But I think that might be inaccurate. I think part of the problem is that we didn't, as leaders in public office, didn't come forward to help the seniors in nursing homes quicker in terms of testing. The county exec in Oakland County said today, or just a few days ago, that he's going to offer the testing, but that's 4 to 6 weeks later when this all came out. And so what we're finding out, and that I found out from our fire department, is that there's no staff that is going to be helping out on the county level. So now who's going to do it? The nursing home personnel, or is, our fire chief said that he would offer up to volunteer to do that, but that would be kind of a last resort. And I understand where he's coming from. That's a lot of man time, but it has to get done. So I was thinking that if we could write a letter to the county exec, and just kind of encouraging, and this is the verbiage that I wrote. I want to send a letter to Oakland County Executive and the state of Michigan licensed Laura, encouraging them to publicly require and enforce nursing homes to implement CDC best practices and to follow the CDC key strategies to long-term care facilities to prepare. I think it's absolutely critical from all my years in healthcare that infection control is key to this. And I'm not quite sure that's what's happening in the nursing homes. And so I wanted to, for us to, as a council, come together and agree to put this in writing and send it to the county executive and health department. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Soltis. Yeah, Emily, I'm so sorry for your loss. It must be so painful, like you said, the physical separation and the grieving process. It's just different right now, and I just want you to know there's a lot of love in the city of Madison Heights for you and your husband and his family, your family. I'm really sorry you're going through this. And these times can be pretty grim and depressing. On the forefront of all of our minds, every single day, every hour, everyone on this council and the staff are all the people in our city that are sick, the 23 people who have passed away, and all of the other connections in other cities through our families and friends, it's pretty difficult to keep your head up. And I know people are getting anxious. The weather's, maybe they'll get better this week. But the governor has been giving us some helpful instructions. One of the instructions that I was drawn to is that we must all wear face masks when we interact in enclosed spaces. And that's going to be a major culture change for America. And so we've seen a lot of people make homemade masks, and there's different degrees of the strengths of the masks. Of course, the best quality are the N95s are being reserved for medical staff and frontline first responders. And that goes all the way down to the cheap paper masks that your lunch lady or lunch man used to wear years ago. Wear what you can. Anything is better than nothing. Now, the city's received a lot of donations of masks, and we distribute those in the order of priority that the governor has recommended. Like I just said, healthcare professionals first and first responders. But what myself, my family, and some supporters we're going to do is we're going to mail masks to as many seniors in Madison Heights as we can. So far, I'll be able to get up to 2,000 seniors. I have their addresses, I have their date of birth, so I know how old they are. And like Dave Soltis just said, we don't want to forget our elders, especially those like my grandmother, who's in her 90s, living alone, maintaining her own household that her and her husband immigrated to here in Madison Heights. We have a lot of widows and widowers who are holding out. And as all of us on city council make wellness calls to these residents, a lot of them are afraid. And so I encourage all of you, first of all, just to reach out to people in your family if you haven't, people in your neighborhood if you haven't. And I actually think, I was on a call with Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist today for my day job, and he closed on a really touching point. And what Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist said is, despite all of the heartache and the grieving, that social distancing does give us a little bit of hope of humanity, because it reminds us of how important our interactions are. I mean, I long to kiss my grandma on the lips again. I miss having family parties. I miss being in an office. I miss having city council together. And I think the new normal will make us, the survivors of this pandemic, even more appreciative of the limited time we have on this planet, but also the more limited time that we have together. And so I really appreciate City Council keeping an upbeat spirit, talking about the future, talking about the transformational planning that we're still doing. I mean, we're still working on master plan. We're still composing a budget. We're still talking about census. We can chew gum and walk at the same time. Even though it only helped 3 residents, we can pass the chicken ordinance. Oh, a quick aside. When Bob Corbett and I passed the original chicken ordinance a century ago, so one of the arguments is that the chickens would be so loud that they would keep the neighborhood dogs up all night going crazy, neurotic dogs barking at the chickens. And so a supporter of chickens cloaked a chicken in the back row of chambers, and after all the arguments at the end of the meeting, uncloaked his chicken who was sitting there the whole time. We didn't hear him, didn't smell him, didn't know. No surprises this year. It passed 6-1. I don't think there will be any surprises as the ordinance is unveiled. But just to close, if you know, or if you are a small business owner, a sole proprietor, you're self-employed, or you work at a small business and they've laid off or they furloughed, the federal government has brought back the Paycheck Protection Program through the SBA. Money is drying up. It may already be gone. But if you haven't applied today, apply tomorrow morning. And you have to apply through your bank. If you don't want to apply through a bank, you can apply through different websites like PayPal, Square, or Intuit. And this is a federal program to pay companies to pay their employees. So with that, so many good things, so many tragic things. I want to thank City Council and staff for preparing the agenda for tonight's meeting. I appreciate all of you very much. Good evening. Meeting's adjourned.